The rain hammered the floor-to-ceiling windows of Voss and Associates like it was trying to break in, turning the Seattle skyline into a blurred watercolor of grays and greens. Elias Thorne stood frozen in the doorway of the conference room, his coffee mug halfway to his lips, when he caught it again, that stare from Harlan Voss, sharp as a switchblade, lingering just a beat too long on the curve of his neck. Harlan's jaw tightened, his broad shoulders shifting under the crisp white shirt, and in that split second, Elias felt the air thicken, the unspoken pull yanking him forward like a riptide he couldn't fight. He wanted to shatter the silence with a joke, anything to pretend it was nothing, but his heart slammed against his ribs, whispering the truth he'd buried for months. This wasn't just a glance, it was a hunger, and it was devouring them both. Elias had always prided himself on reading rooms, on knowing when to charm a client or when to fade into the background of a pitch meeting. At 28, with his easy smile and quick wit, he'd climbed the ranks at Voss and Associates from intern to senior account exec by being the guy everyone trusted, the one who remembered birthdays and smoothed over egos without breaking a sweat. Seattle suited him that way. A city of layers where the fog hid your secrets and the coffee kept you sharp. But Harlan Voss? Harlan was the storm at the center of it all. 42, built like he could fell a redwood with his bare hands, with salt and pepper hair cropped close and eyes the color of Puget Sound after a squall, stormy gray, impenetrable. Everyone knew the stories. Divorced twice, a string of flings with leggy blondes from the yacht club, the kind of straight-arrow machismo that made him the king of real estate development in the Pacific Northwest. Harlan didn't do complications, he bulldozed them. That first stare had happened 3 months ago, during a late-night crunch on the Harborview Towers bid. The office was a ghost town, just the hum of the HVAC and the distant wail of ferries cutting through the drizzle. Elias was hunched over his laptop, fingers flying across the keys, when he felt it, like a touch on his skin. He looked up and there was Harlan, leaning against the doorframe of his corner office, arms crossed, gaze locked not on the screen but on Elias's profile. The intensity of it hit like a cold wave. Harlan's lips pressed into a thin line, his chest rising and falling a fraction too fast. Elias's stomach flipped, heat crawling up his neck. He forced a grin. "Boss, you look like you're plotting my demise over that spreadsheet." Harlan blinked, straightened, and muttered something about deadlines before vanishing down the hall. Elias chalked it up to exhaustion, to the way Harlan pushed everyone, including himself, to the brink. But it didn't stop. If anything, it sharpened. In the break room over lukewarm coffee, Harlan's eyes would flick to Elias's hands as he stirred in sugar, tracing the veins along his knuckles. During team huddles, when Elias laid out strategy with that low, steady voice honed from years of theater in college, Harlan would nod along, but his stare would drift to Elias's mouth, to the way his collar rode up just enough to show the edge of a tattoo peeking from his shoulder. Elias, who had come out at 22 and dated his share of baristas and baristas' brothers in Capitol Hill, knew the signs of attraction like he knew the lyrics to every Elliott Smith song. But Harlan Voss? The man who blasted Springsteen on his truck radio and volunteered at his ex-wife's PTA fundraisers? It had to be projection, some midlife itch Harlan was scratching in the wrong direction. Elias tried ignoring it. He threw himself into work, courting clients in Pike Place with armfuls of fresh salmon and craft IPAs, sealing deals that padded the firm's coffers. He hit the gym at dawn, pounding the treadmill until his lungs burned, hoping the endorphins would drown out the ache low in his gut, the one that bloomed every time Harlan brushed past him in the hall, close enough for Elias to catch the scent of cedar cologne and clean sweat. Nights he swiped through apps, hooking up with faceless guys who tasted like distraction, but their touches felt hollow, like echoes of what he imagined Harlan's hands might do. Rough, deliberate, unyielding. One Friday, the office buzzed with the promise of a long weekend. Memorial Day barbecue invites flying via Slack. The Puget Sound calling with its promise of sun, or at least less rain. Elias was wrapping up emails when his phone pinged. Harlan summoning him to the executive suite. Heart in his throat, Elias smoothed his tie, a slim navy silk thing he'd bought on a whim in Belltown, and knocked. "Come in," Harlan's voice rumbled, low and gravelly like tires on wet pavement. The office was a shrine to Harlan's world. Framed blueprints of skyscrapers on the walls, a battered baseball from his Little League days on the desk, a window overlooking the ferries slicing through Elliott Bay. Harlan sat behind the oak behemoth, sleeves rolled to his elbows, forearms corded with muscle and dusted in dark hair. He gestured to the chair opposite. Sit. We've got a problem with the Ridge Valley project. Elias dropped into the seat, all business. Ridge Valley was their crown jewel. A sustainable eco-village on the outskirts of Seattle, blending luxury condos with community gardens and solar arrays. It was Harlan's baby, dreamed up after his second divorce left him staring at empty rooms in his Queen and Victorian. What's the snag? Elias asked, pulling out his tablet. Harlan leaned forward, elbows on the desk, and that's when it happened again. His eyes, those damn eyes, locked onto Elias's, holding for 3 heartbeats for 5. The air hummed with it, electric and heavy. Elias's pulse thundered in his ears. Harlan's Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed, and for a wild moment Elias thought he saw it. A crack in the facade, a flicker of something raw and unguarded. Desire? Panic? Then Harlan blinked, dragging a hand through his hair. The zoning board's pushing back on the green spaces. They want more parking. Idiots don't see the vision. They dove into it then, hashing out revisions, the room filling with the scratch of pens and the low murmur of strategy. But Elias couldn't shake the heat of that stare. It lingered like smoke curling through his thoughts. By the time they wrapped, the sun had dipped low, painting the bay in bruised purples. Harlan stood, stretching, his shirt pulling taut across his chest. Good work tonight, Thorne. You're the only one who gets this stuff like I do. Elias rose, forcing casual. Team effort, boss. Beers on me Friday. Celebrate if we nail this. Harlan paused, hand on the doorknob, and turned. That stare again, deeper this time, peeling Elias bare. Yeah, maybe. His voice was rough, edged with something unspoken. Then he was gone, leaving Elias alone with the fading light and a chest tight with questions he wasn't sure he wanted answered. That weekend stretched like taffy, sweet and sticky with what-ifs. Elias drove out to his family's cabin in the Cascades, the winding roads through evergreens a balm for his frayed nerves. Maple Creek, the tiny town where he'd grown up, was all nostalgia. The general store with its creaky porch, the lake where he'd skipped stones as a kid, dreaming of escaping to the city's anonymity. His mom, Clara, fussed over him with pot roast and stories of the neighbors, old Mr. Whitaker still complaining about the elk in his garden. His dad, Tom, clapped him on the back and talked Seahawks, pretending not to notice the shadows under Elias's eyes. But alone on the dock that night, beer in hand, stars pricking the velvet sky, Elias let it spill. Harlan's face swam in his mind, the way his laugh lines crinkled during client lunches, the quiet intensity when he sketched ideas on napkins, veins standing out on his hands. Elias had always been drawn to the straight ones, the challenge of it, but this felt different, deeper, like a fault line shifting under his feet. He tossed a pebble into the water, watching the ripples spread. What if Harlan wasn't staring because he wanted Elias? What if it was disgust, or worse, curiosity turned cruel? The thought twisted like a knife, but it couldn't cut through the pull, the way his body hummed at the mere thought of closing that distance. Back in the city Monday, the office thrummed with post-holiday energy. Elias buried himself in calls, but Harlan found him in the copy room mid-morning, both reaching for the same stack of reports. Their fingers brushed, accidental, electric, and Harlan jerked back like he'd been burned. Sorry, he muttered, eyes darting away, but not before Elias saw the flush creep up his neck. No harm, Elias said, voice steady despite the spark racing up his arm. He held Harlan's gaze, daring him. For a breath, the world narrowed to that space between them. The hum of the machine, the faint scent of ink and aftershave. Harlan's pupils dilated, his breath hitching. Then the door swung open, marketing's in turn, chattering about lunch, and the moment shattered. Elias spent the afternoon in a daze, pitching ideas to a faceless Zoom client, while his mind replayed that touch on loop. By 5, he was packing up when Harlan's voice cut through the quiet. Thorne. My office. Now. The summons sent a jolt through him. Harlan's door was ajar, the man himself pacing like a caged wolf. Close it, he said as Elias entered. The click of the latch echoed like a gunshot. Harlan stopped, facing the window, hands shoved in his pockets. This Ridge Valley thing, it's personal. After the divorce, I bought that land because it was a fresh start. No more half measures. He turned and there it was again. The stairs stripped bare, no pretense. You see it too, don't you? The potential. Elias nodded, throat dry. More than potential. It's redemption. Harlan's laugh was low, bitter. Redemption. Yeah, that's what I'm chasing. He stepped closer, close enough that Elias could see the flecks of blue in his gray eyes, the faint scar above his brow from a bar fight in his 20s. The air crackled. Why do you get me, Thorne? Why does it feel like you see right through all this bullshit? Elias's heart stuttered. He could lie, deflect with charm. Instead, truth tumbled out. Because I know what it's like to hide. To build walls so high you forget what's on the other side. Harlan's face shuddered, but his eyes, God, those eyes burned. He reached out, hand hovering near Elias's arm, then dropped it. I can't, he broke off, turning away. Forget it. Just get the revisions done by Wednesday. Elias left that office hollowed out, the rejection stinging like salt in a wound. But as he rode the elevator down, rain streaking the glass, he realized something terrifying. He wasn't pretending anymore. The stairs weren't one-sided. And whatever storm was brewing, he was ready to step into it. Part 1. End word count. 10:23. The days blurred into a rhythm of stolen glances and loaded silences. The office a pressure cooker where every email from Harlan felt like foreplay. Every good job, laced with subtext Elias couldn't ignore. He told himself it was madness, Harlan Voss, the straightest arrow in the quiver, unraveling over him? But the evidence piled up like Seattle's endless drizzle. The way Harlan lingered after meetings, his knee brushing Elias's under the table. The late-night texts about quick questions that devolved into rambling voice notes about architecture and regret. Harlan's voice dropping low, intimate, like they were the only two souls in the dark. Elias's apartment in Fremont became a war zone of his own making. Tucked above a tattoo shop on a street lined with food trucks and vintage signs, it was his sanctuary. Exposed brick walls hung with indie band posters, a kitchenette cluttered with half-read screenplays from his aborted film school dreams. But now it echoed with ghosts. He'd pace the hardwood floors at midnight, phone in hand, thumb hovering over Harlan's contact, HV saved innocently enough after a team-building hike in the Olympics. What would he say? I see you looking. I feel it too. No, that was suicide. Instead, he called his best friend, Riley, a barista/poet with a buzz cut and a laugh like shattered glass. They met at the Rusty Anchor, a dive in Ballard where the jukebox favored Johnny Cash and the whiskey burned clean. Riley slid into the booth, eyes sharp. You look like hell, Eli. Spill. Is it that boss of yours again? Elias nursed his bourbon, the ice clinking like accusations. It's nothing. Just intense. Riley snorted, lighting a cigarette despite the no-smoking sign. Seattle's rules bent for the right attitude. Intense? You've been dodging my texts for a week. Come on, I've known you since we were stealing smokes behind the high school gym. That straight guy crush vibe? It's written all over you. It's not a crush. Elias's voice cracked on the lie. He described the stares, the touches, the way Harlan's presence filled a room like thunder rolling in off the sound. Riley listened, chin propped on his hand, then leaned in. Listen, man. Harlan Voss sounds like a closet case on the verge. But you're playing with fire. What if he freaks? Ruins your career? Or worse, uses you to prove something to himself? The words landed heavy, but Elias waved them off. He's not like that. There's something real there. Even as he said it, doubt gnawed. Harlan's ex-wives, his poker nights with the boys, the framed photo on his desk of him and his brother fly fishing in Alaska, all signposts screaming straight. Yet the pull was undeniable. A magnetic ache that left Elias breathless. Tuesday brought the hammer. The team gathered for the Ridge Valley pitch, a high-stakes virtual showdown with the zoning board. Elias led the visuals, his slides a masterpiece of renders. Sun-dappled paths winding through native plantings, condos with views of the Olympics, a central pavilion for farmers' markets. Harlan watched from the head of the table, silent, his gaze a physical weight on Elias's back. When it was over, the board tentatively greenlit, pending tweaks. The room erupted in cheers. High fives, backslaps, plans for victory laps at the nearest pub. Harlan caught Elias in the hall later, shoulder to the wall, voice pitched low. That was brilliant. You saved our asses. His hand clamped Elias's shoulder, thumb pressing just shy of too firm, sending heat spiraling down Elias's spine. Up close, Harlan smelled of rain and resolve, his stubble a day's worth of shadow. Elias met his eyes bold for once. We make a good team, Harlan. The use of his first name hung there, intimate as a kiss. Harlan's grip tightened, then released, his face a mask cracking at the edges. Yeah, we do. He stepped back, but not before Elias saw the war raging in those gray depths. Want against will, truth against terror. That night, emboldened, Elias texted. Drinks to celebrate? My place. Got a bottle of that Macallan you like. Minutes ticked by, each one a lifetime. Then, on my way. Panic and elation warred as Elias tidied, fluffing pillows on the thrift store couch, dimming lamps to a golden glow, heart jackhammering. When the knock came, it was softer than expected. Harlan stood on the threshold, bottle in hand, jacket slung over one arm, hair damp from the downpour. Brought back up, he said, voice gruff, but his eyes roamed over Elias's fitted Henley, the bare feet on the rug, the vulnerability of home turf. They settled on the couch, glasses clinking, the whiskey a warm burn that loosened tongues. Talk flowed easy at first, Ridge Valley's quirks, Harlan's boyhood in Tacoma, building forts in the shipyards, Elias sharing tales of his mom's art classes, his dad's quiet stoicism after coming out. Laughter came, real and rare, Harlan's head tipping back, throat exposed in a way that made Elias's mouth dry. Then the air shifted. Harlan set his glass down, staring into the amber dregs. You ever feel like you're living someone else's life, Eli? The nickname slipped out, soft as sin. Like all this, the deals, the houses, the image, it's a suit that doesn't fit anymore. Elias leaned in, close enough to feel the heat radiating off him. Every day. But you? You're the one calling the shots. Harlan's gaze lifted, locking on. Am I? His hand moved, tentative, cupping Elias's jaw. The touch was fire, callous thumb tracing the line of his cheekbone, eyes searching, pleading. Elias froze, breath shallow, then leaned into it, heart a wild drum. Harlan's lips parted, a whisper away. The kiss, when it came, was cataclysmic. Harlan surged forward, mouth crashing against Elias's with a desperation that bordered on violence. Teeth nipping, tongue demanding, hands fisting in Elias's shirt to yank him closer. Elias melted into it, fingers threading Harlan's hair, tasting whiskey and want, the world narrowing to the slide of skin, the groan rumbling from Harlan's chest. They broke apart, gasping, foreheads pressed, Harlan's eyes wild. Fuck. I can't stop thinking about you. Elias's laugh was breathless, triumphant. Good. Don't. They tumbled then, a tangle of limbs and urgency, clothes shed in a trail to the bedroom. Harlan's body was a revelation. Broad plains of muscle etched from years of manual labor before the boardrooms, scars from construction sites faint under Elias's exploring hands. He was reverent, tracing the dip of Harlan's collarbone, the V of his hips, drawing out moans that shattered the straight man myth. Harlan was all instinct, pinning Elias down with a growl, lips mapping his chest, hips grinding in a rhythm that built like a squall. It was messy, fervent, nails raking backs, breaths mingling in curses and pleas, culminating in release that left them wrecked, slick and spent, Harlan collapsing with a shuddering exhale. After, in the quiet hush of sheets twisted around them, Harlan traced patterns on Elias's skin, voice muffled against his shoulder. It's new. Scary as hell. Vulnerability cracked his tone, the big man small in the dark. Elias kissed his temple, steady. Scary's okay. As long as it's real. Sleep came fitful, dreams laced with rain and revelation. Dawn filtered through the blinds, gray light gilding Harlan's profile as he stirred. Elias watched him, chest aching with something deeper than lust, affection, maybe love, blooming tender and terrifying. But morning brought clarity, and with it, Harlan's retreat. He dressed in silence, movements jerky, avoiding Elias's eyes. Last night, Christ, Eli. I don't know what came over me. The words landed like blows, each one hollowing Elias out. It's okay, Elias lied, sitting up, sheet pulled at his waist. We can talk. No. Harlan's voice sharpened, panic flashing. This can't happen. I'm not. I have a life. A daughter. People expect. He raked a hand through his hair, backing toward the door. It was a mistake. Forget it. The door clicked shut behind him, leaving Elias adrift in the wreckage. He curled into the pillows, Harlan's scent clinging like a ghost, tears hot on his cheeks. Betrayal? No, worse, rejection, raw and ripping. He'd bared his soul, and Harlan had bolted, slamming the door on what could have been. Work that week was torture. Harlan buried himself in calls, delegating Elias to junior tasks, his stares now daggers of avoidance. Elias moved like a shadow, pitching with mechanical precision, but inside he fractured. Nights blurred into bars and bad decisions, Riley dragging him out to drag shows in the U District, whispering, "He's not worth it, babe." But Elias couldn't shake the memory of Harlan's touch, the way he'd whispered Elias's name like a prayer. The breaking point came mid-June, during a site visit to Ridge Valley. The land was verdant promise. Meadows rolling toward the sound, topsoil rich underfoot. The team toured the mock-up cabins, but tension crackled between Elias and Harlan, unspoken words thickening the air. As the others loaded into vans, Harlan pulled Elias aside. Near a copse of madronas, bark peeling like old skin. We need to clear the air. Elias's laugh was brittle. Clear it? You ran, Harlan. Left me holding the pieces. Harlan winced, stepping closer, voice low. I panicked. My ex, God, she'd use this against me in custody. And the firm. Rumors could tank everything. His hand twitched as if to reach, then fell. But I can't stop. Every day seeing you, it's killing me. The confession hung fragile. Elias's walls crumbled. Then fight for it. Or let me go. Harlan's eyes darkened, storm brewing. He closed the gap, kissing Elias fierce and forgiving, hands framing his face like he was anchoring himself. I'm trying. God help me, I'm trying. They stole moments after that. Kisses in supply closets, fingers laced under conference tables, texts laced with longing. It was a secret symphony, exhilarating and edged with peril. Elias felt alive, Harlan's guarded smiles cracking open like dawn over the mountains. They dreamed aloud. Weekends in the San Juans, kayaking coves, building a life beyond labels. But secrets fester. Whispers started. Interns catching the charged glances, a client's offhand. You two seem close. Harlan grew jittery, snapping at staff, drowning doubts in bourbon at afterwork mixers. Elias soothed him, but the strain showed. Harlan's touches hesitant, his eyes haunted. The axe fell on a sweltering July eve, office party at Harlan's insistence. A rooftop bash at the new Belltown Lounge, city lights twinkling like conspirators. Champagne flowed. Laughter echoed off the Space Needle's glow. Elias nursed a gin and tonic, watching Harlan hold court, arms slung around his brother Cole. The two Voss men thick as thieves. Cole tall, blonde, all easy charm. Clapped Elias's back later. Harlan says you're the glue holding Ridge Valley together. Family almost. The word warmed, then curdled. As the night peaked, Harlan pulled Elias into a shadowed alcove, mouth hot on his neck, whispering, "Meet me downstairs. Can't wait anymore." Elias slipped away, pulse racing, elevator dinging like a heartbeat. But in the lobby, instead of Harlan, it was Cole, face thunderous, gripping a printout of texts, screenshots damning. Harlan's late-night confessions, Elias's replies raw with emotion. What the hell is this? My brother's not queer. You're poisoning him. Elias reeled, denial rising. It's not Cole, listen. No. Cole's voice was venom. I forwarded this to Dad. To the board. Harlan's done if this gets out. Stay away from him. Betrayal sliced deep. Not just Cole's but the realization. Harlan's world, the one he'd glimpsed, was a fortress of fragile facades. Elias fled into the night, rain soaking him to the bone, sobs mingling with the downpour. Home was a blur of rage and rum, phone silent as a grave. Dawn brought Harlan's call, voice shattered. Eli? Christ, what happened? Elias laid it bare, hurt, spilling like blood. Harlan swore, foul, frantic, then confessed. Cole had confronted him at the party, forcing Harlan to deny everything, to call it a phase, a lapse. I lied to protect us. But it's over. The board's circling. Dad's threatening to pull funding. I can't lose everything. You already lost me, Elias whispered, hanging up before the plea could form. The fallout cascaded. Ridge Valley stalled, whispers turning to scandals. Harlan vanished into meetings, emerging gaunt, eyes hollow. Elias tendered resignation, citing personal reasons, but the truth gnawed. He'd fallen for a man too scared to fall back. Summer waned, leaves turning gold in Gasworks Park. Elias wandered the paths, sketchpad in hand, his old habit drawing what words couldn't capture. One sketch. Harlan by the water, unmoored. He burned it, ashes scattering on the wind. Healing came slow in fragments. Riley's poetry slams, a fling with a visiting artist that fizzled soft. But the scar lingered, a reminder of love's cruel edge. October winds howled when Harlan appeared at his door, unannounced, rain-slicked and desperate. I sold the Victorian, told Cole the truth about us, about me. The board? They can choke. His eyes, red-rimmed, held Elias's. I was wrong. Scared. But you're my redemption, Eli. If you'll have me. Elias stepped aside, door open. Prove it. They rebuilt, tentative. Coffee dates in Pioneer Square, hands brushing over lattes. Weekends in the cabin, Tom's knowing nod over breakfast. Harlan came out quietly. First to family, then the firm, a memo terse but true. Pushback came. Clients balking, Cole's silence, but Harlan stood firm, Elias at his side. Winter blanketed Seattle in frost. Their first holiday together, a quiet triumph. Tree in the apartment, lights twinkling, Harlan's arm around him on the couch. As snow dusted the sound, Elias realized the message woven through the pain. Love demanded courage, not perfection. In the hush of acceptance they found freedom, two men, scarred and whole, staring into a future unbound.